Hello and welcome to the AutoX show. It's raining SUVs this week on the show as the MG Hector and Tata Harrier see if they have the might to take on the current leader of the pack, the Hyundai Creta. We also test the most hardcore 125cc motorcycle in the country, the KTM RC 125. But first, here are a trio of SUVs that are certainly the flavor of the month.
SUVs constitute the second largest segment in our market, and because of the hearty appetite or the demand for SUVs, manufacturers continue to take out new SUVs. Starting with the leader of this segment, the Creta. Hyundai launched this in 2015 and ever since the Creta has been the most successful SUV. After laughing to the bank for 3 years, Hyundai decided to launch the refreshed version of the Creta, which we have with us today. Now, with the SUV segment heating up, we have two serious contenders. We have the Tata Harrier and the brand new MG Hector. Now, speaking of Tata Motors, they have long been associated with UVs and SUVs. Now, that's the reason why Tata have managed to muscle their way back into this segment with the Tata Harrier, which was launched early this year. Now, the Harrier stands out with its distinctive design, has a very good road presence, but what makes it stand apart is the Land Rover Discovery chassis which it's based on. Therefore, this makes it a very capable SUV. Now, here's a pop quiz. What is something that we cannot live without? It's quite simple really, it is the mobile phone. In other words, connectivity. And connectivity is what the MG Hector is all about. With an embedded SIM, the Hector provides you with connectivity anywhere and everywhere you go as long as the network is there. It has the presence of an old school SUV. That means that stands out in the crowd and actually bullies other cars. So now the variants we have with us is the Hector 1.5 litre petrol automatic, the Creta 1.6 litre automatic, and as the Harrier does not come with either a petrol engine or an automatic transmission, well, we have the 2 litre diesel top of the line variant. So let's find out which SUV fits your requirement. Now, we're driving the MG Hector. At a glance, you will know how premium this looks. I mean, it's got LED lamps everywhere, maybe the DRLs, the headlamps, even the fog lamps. Now, that is a first in this segment. And of course, even the rear lamps are LEDs. So now when we talk about the cabin, it's top quality stuff. The materials used, it is really one of the best in the segment. You've got some soft leather here. Even the hard plastic feels good. And the steering wheel feels also very good and solid, and if you look around, even the seats, they're very comfortable. Now, the thing that stands out the most in this cabin has to be this vertical display, the 10.4-inch infotainment system. It's easily the biggest in the segment. It's fairly easy to use the display, it's quite intuitive, and the response is also fairly good. It comes with preloaded apps like for the weather, as well as a premium account for Ghana, so if you are a music buff, you can listen to music. Of course, you also get the usual suspects like the Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto, which is available in all the three cars. What's worth mentioning is that it comes with 8-speaker Infinity system, which is mind-blowing. It comes with an amplifier, it comes with a subwoofer, you name it, it's got it. Now, the million-dollar question is, how does the Hector behave behind the wheel? Well, starting from the steering wheel, it is extremely light. It is not a bad thing as you can negotiate start and stop traffic and even manage to park easily. Now, what we would have preferred is if this steering wheel weighed in a bit more on high speed, because the featherweight light touch kind of makes it feel a bit nervous on high speed. Now, coming to the 1.5 litre petrol engine, which has 141 bhp of power, it is really refined and it is mated to a dual clutch transmission, which offers really smooth shifts. Now, what is slightly disappointing is that there's hardly any low-end torque. You have to wait till around 2000 RPM and then things start moving a bit faster. I wouldn't say radically faster, but yes, it is a bit more responsive. When you're driving it in the city, you will not feel the lack of power. Yes, that you will feel only on the highway or maybe if you have to quickly overtake. But apart from that, it offers a very comfortable and effortless driving experience. As a true blue SUV, when it comes to handling, the body roll is fairly evident, but it's not a deal breaker as an SUV owner doesn't really care about that. And when it comes to the ride quality, the soft suspension carpets any sort of ditches or bumps. Now I'm sitting at the rear seat, but the good part here is the magic doesn't stop here. I can use voice commands from sitting in the back, but you gotta be a bit more louder. Hello MG.
I'm here.
Please open the sunroof. Voila, we have it. Now you gotta be a bit patient and give it at least a couple of seconds, but the commands will be accepted. With 2750 mm of wheelbase, what do you get? Well, you can see I'm sitting with my legs crossed and I'm just lounging in the rear. But if I had to nitpick, well, the seat squat could offer a bit more under thigh support. It's virtually flat and on long distances you do feel the lack of support. But apart from that, the back support is just spot on. And here we would like to show you one more thing. Here you go. It reclines as well. Now can we ask for more? I don't think so. We are right now driving the Harrier. If you look at it from the outside, it looks quite impressive, especially the split headlamp design. Now you've got the DRLs on top and then comes the headlamps and finally it's the fog lamps. But you know, what I would have liked was if they had not used projector headlamps and would have gone for LED. I mean, come on, you need to add a little bit of that premium feel. But overall, if you cover the Tata badge, the Harrier looks like a Land Rover from any and all angles. That is how impressive the Harrier is. Now talking about the cabin, we have to give credit to Tata for using this mock wood which actually looks quite authentic. It adds that class of a touch which is required. Now if you look at the 8.8-inch infotainment system, it looks quite impressive, but if you take a closer look, it's got very thick bezels. Now the touchscreen is fairly responsive and intuitive, but again, with the thick bezels, it just looks pretty outdated. Also at the same time, I really don't understand if the infotainment system has a touchscreen, why do you need so many buttons? Like any modern vehicle or an SUV, the Harrier also comes with charging ports and auxiliary port as well. Now the catch here is, it is placed in such a way that you have to bend down, search for it. It's like basically you're playing hide and seek. It's highly inconvenient. Now coming to the 2-liter diesel engine, it is sourced from Fiat and it also powers the Jeep Compass. Now the difference between the two is that the Compass boasts over 170 bhp, while the Harrier on the other hand only gets 138 bhp. Now keeping in mind that the Harrier is heavier and bigger than the Compass, you do feel that weight and it does feel a bit underpowered, but not in the city. But on the highway, yes, it does feel wanting. Now what that means is that the turbo lag is quite prominent till around 1500 RPM, but then after that it does pick up some pace. Now what really stands out about the Harrier is its Land Rover Discovery Sport chassis. It just makes it a complete different beast altogether. It is fairly safe to say that in its segment it is the best handler. It takes on corners like no one's business. And when you talk about body roll, what body roll? There's absolutely no body roll at all. It is that good. Now the Harrier boasts of 2741 mm of wheelbase. Now what that means is plenty of knee and leg room and of course a lot of shoulder room. Now I can just stretch my legs and can sit comfortably. On top of that, the seats are extremely comfortable and they provide under thigh support, which is a rare thing in this segment. Now if you're wondering where the AC vents are, no, they're not here in the center console, they're here in the side, but they're there, don't worry about it. On top of that, the Harrier also comes with a shelf in the doors where you can place your mobile phone right here comfortably. The Harrier's infotainment also comes with 9 speakers from JBL. Now also you're wondering where do you charge your phone or your gadget? Well, not to worry, there is a charging port right here. You can't see it and it is a bit tough to reach, but it is there, trust me. You just have to bend over a bit more and it's there, you'll find it, don't worry about it. So as mentioned earlier, we are driving the facelifted version of the Creta. Now there are a couple of pertinent changes that this version gets. First and foremost, it gets a big, imposing, chrome finished grille. Then on top of that, the DRLs have now been pushed down to where the fog lamps are housed. It also comes with silver cladding front and rear lip as well. With a ground clearance of 190 mm, it doesn't bottom out anywhere, and at the same time it is very easy getting in and out of the cabin. Now talking about the cabin inside, well, there are also a couple of tweaks this version gets. First and foremost, the instrument cluster now reads fuel mileage, so that is a very important update. Then it also comes with cruise control and of course the sunroof. So now coming to cabin's fit and finish and quality, it remains the same, and Creta has always been one of the segment leaders in that front as well. You can see it's solid, it's hard plastic, but you will not find any flaws in it. The Creta is powered by the 121 bhp 1.6 litre petrol engine, which is mated to a 6-speed torque converter. Now the best part about this transmission is the gear shift, which is very smooth and it upshifts very quickly. But when it has to downshift, that is where it kind of takes a second or two. It's something like it's trying to contemplate should it downshift or not. So that can be a bit annoying, but apart from that, the driving experience is effortless. Now coming to the engine, the power delivery is linear and it is spread evenly. Now if we had to nitpick a bit, well, we would have liked if the transmission came with a sport option or maybe even paddle shifters. That would have made the driving a lot more engaging, but then again, we're just nitpicking. Now the Creta here has the smallest cabin, but you cannot complain when it comes to knee room as well as leg room. The shoulder room is ideal for 2 passengers. You can make 3 passengers or 3 adults sit here, but then it'll get really cramped. After driving these SUVs, the only thing that is similar among all of them is that they're in the same segment. Now each and every SUV here, they are completely different. Now let's start with the Tata Harrier first. Now if you're looking to go off-road, well, this is the only SUV which provides you with 3 different driving modes. Well, starting with the normal city condition, then you can take on rough roads, and also for wet conditions there is an option. Now going by the design, the Harrier looks extremely youthful and will attract a lot of young buyers. But the key here is its Land Rover Discovery Sport chassis, which makes this SUV the best handler in the segment. You can easily attack turns and this car will remain as stable as possible. So if you love driving and you don't mind going out for an adventure, well, this is the car to go for. Now, coming to the new kid on the block, or rather should we say the new beast on the block, well, the MG Hector is all about being premium. It's a big massive car and it does not compromise in comfort. And of course, we all know the sort of features it offers. Now if you are a gadget gizmo freak, well, this is the car for you. But if you enjoy driving, well, then this may turn out to be a bit more docile for you. But when you're looking for road presence, there's nothing like this. Also, talking about both the Harrier and the Hector, well, very soon the 7-seater versions will also be introduced. Speaking of the Hector, it will be introduced within this financial year, while the Harrier will launch its 7-seater next year. Now, there is a reason why the Hyundai Creta is the segment leader and has been the segment leader for 4 years. When it comes to quality, reliability, performance, well, you cannot go wrong with this Hyundai SUV. Now, this is an urban SUV which is slightly compact compared to the other two, but in no way is the cabin space compromised. There is something that we'd like to mention. Now, maybe the Creta will continue to be the segment leader, but there is the Kia Seltos, which will be launched next month. The Kia Seltos is actually going to be the 2nd generation Creta. Now it will be a bit more bigger than the current Creta and will be powered by BS6 engines. On top of that, whatever connectivity features the Hector is showing off right now or boasting about it, well, the Kia will also offer the same. So I would suggest watch and wait and find out what the Kia Seltos is all about before you make your decision. The verdict then is this: the Harrier is the best starter product on offer. So if you want to buy Indian, now is the time to take the plunge. The Hector is untested, but it doesn't matter because you can't get your hands on one since the bookings are closed at the moment. The Creta is tried and tested and will continue to be very successful for the brand. But the stiffest competition it will face appears to be within, as Kia is a part of the Hyundai Motor Group.
Now don't go anywhere, because when we come back, Ravi finds out just what happens when you put fairings on a KTM 125. Welcome back to the AutoX show. Now before we get to the KTM RC 125, I have a bit of sad news. You see, a true legend of the automotive industry and an inspiration to us all, Lee Iacocca, passed away earlier this month at the age of 94. His autobiography is one of the most inspirational books that I've ever read. He was the father of the Ford Mustang. He was also the only person to head two of the big three American automakers, Ford and Chrysler. At Chrysler, he invented the minivan and rescued the company from the brink of near death and turned the company around, while working famously on a salary of just $1 a year until the company turned profitable. His role in Ford's famous victories at Le Mans in the 1960s against Ferrari is immortalized in the upcoming Hollywood blockbuster Ford vs. Ferrari. So stay tuned for the film, but also, if you get a chance, pick up a copy of his autobiography. Now, back to some motoring action, because here is the KTM RC 125. This ain't no 125cc commuter.
For a 125cc offering that costs north of 1.2 lakh, the KTM 125 Duke has done fairly well for itself. Contrary to what its displacement would suggest, it isn't your regular 125 commuter. The upside-down forks, rear monoshock, the trellis frame and the wider tires are proof of that. And for all that it offers, we thought the KTM 125 Duke is reasonably well priced. It has in fact evolved the minds of the customer to appreciate the superiority of components. Expanding on the 125 range further, KTM has launched this, the RC 125. And it's priced at 1.47 lakhs. This raises a lot of questions. We are at the Bajaj test track in Chakan to find out all the answers and to find out if it is worth the money. In terms of design, the RC 125 looks pretty much like the rest of the RC range. You get this beak-like front with twin projector headlamps, a large windscreen up front. You get these DRLs. The fuel tank is slightly smaller than the Duke 125. It's a 9-liter tank right here. The only thing that is different is probably the graphics here. It gets this funky orange and black shade. It also comes in a white and black shade. In terms of ergonomics, the RC 125 remains pretty much like the rest of the RC range. You get these clip-on handlebars, rear set foot pegs, and a slightly taller seat. You get a nice aggressive riding posture. You can tuck behind the windscreen and give it an aggressive posture to ride on.
Just like the rest of the RC range, the seating posture in the RC 125 too is committed. The triple clamp handlebar, the 835mm seat height and the rear set foot pegs give it a naturally aggressive riding stance. While this works splendidly at the test track, riding for long hours in the city can be a bit uncomfortable. Moreover, the bike does feel a bit cramped for room. While the integrated pillion seat looks fancy, it is a bit too high to get onto. The RC 125 borrows its motor from the 125 Duke, the same 124.7cc single-cylinder liquid-cooled unit. At 14.3 bhp and 12 Nm, power and torque figures are identical to the naked sibling too. Interestingly, the power is more or less similar to some of the 160cc offerings on sale. The RC125 feels a bit weak towards the bottom and low end of the rev range. It is only when you rev it past the 7000 RPM mark that the engine starts to feel livelier. It continues to feel eager right up till the 10,000 RPM red line, at which point you start to feel some vibes on the pegs. Overall performance is impressive and the bike feels rather stress-free till about 90 kmph. As far as top speed is concerned, we could manage a speedo indicated 122 kmph at the test track. The RC125 comes paired with a 6-speed transmission. The tightly packed ratios mean you can slot it in the top cog from about 45 to 50 kmph. This should not only help while riding in the city, but also ensure that the RC125 is a judicious sipper. KTM has made no compromises in terms of components. Even the RC125 gets a trellis frame, upside down forks and a rear monoshock, just like its larger siblings. This definitely reflects in the way it goes around corners. The shorter wheelbase and the tighter rake angle play their part too. The aggressive riding posture adds more weight to the front, giving it better feel and confidence to attack corners. The baby RC is a heavy motorcycle, especially for a 125cc offering, but the weight is well balanced and you don't quite feel it even on switchbacks. That being said, in the interest of better performance, we wish KTM had employed some weight saving measures. The Bajaj test track wasn't the ideal testing ground to judge the bike's ride quality, but given its posture and the stiff suspension, we expect it to be a bit harsh. KTM is known to offer superior components on its product. The braking hardware on the RC125 is testimony of that. The RC125 gets a 300mm disc up front and a 230mm setup at the rear. And while the regulations make just CBS mandatory for motorcycles above 125cc, KTM has still fitted it with a single channel ABS. While there is sufficient bite from the brakes, there's a fair bit of travel before you get there. Ironic as it may sound, better braking could have made the RC125 feel a bit faster around the track.
At 1.47 lakh, the KTM RC125 is quite an expensive proposition. Sure, it does get a lot of superior components like the trellis frame, upside down forks, rear monoshock and the likes. But then as does the KTM 125 Duke, and that one is 17,000 cheaper than the RC. When you look at the competition, things get even more difficult for the KTM RC125. Take the YZF R15 for example. It gets a bigger motor that makes more power and torque, it gets a dual channel ABS and still costs 8,000 less than the RC125. In terms of pricing then, the RC125 doesn't offer great value for money proposition. But there's no denying that it can be a great product for someone who wants to learn the art of motorcycling.
Well, that's all the time we have for you today. Thank you for joining us. Remember to follow us on social media for your daily dose of all things automotive. And remember, it's chaos out there. So always buckle up and wear your helmet. We'll see you again next weekend on the autoX Show.